Chapter 104, Affection, a Bitter Lotus. These few days felt like the happiest days Yu Bingyan had ever been through, with him by her side. After that bawling session, both of them suddenly felt a lot closer to each other. This was especially true for Yu Bingyan. Whenever she came to the Ling mansion, she loved to annoy Ling Tian with silly matters. A light laughter would be heard coming from her every now and then. It was as though her 10-odd years of despair, pressure, loneliness and grief would be washed away whenever she was by his side. Happiness welled up from deep inside her heart. Even for those protectors who had watched her grow up, this was the first time they witnessed something like this. All of them could not help but feel a pain in their hearts. Poor princess, she should be someone who had the right to enjoy all of these, more than anyone else in the world. Yet, the heaven makes fools of men, she was destined to lead a life of sorrow the moment she was born. Ling Tian understood deep down that Yu Bingyan knew her days were numbered. So, she took every single chance she had with him seriously. As such, he showered her with even more tenderness and affection. These few days, Yu Bingyan did not remove the face-concealing powder that she wore. Ling Tian also seemed to have forgotten completely about it. In both their hearts, the mental connection they shared was more important. As for external looks, they were secondary. If any party were to talk about it, it would make them seem shallow. Currently, Yu Bingyan was wielding onto a brush as the corners of her mouth were curled up in a slight smile, displaying the joy in her heart. Her eyes were filled with an immense satisfaction as she attempted to replicate one of Ling Tian's artwork in his study. With her head bowed, she seemed to be fully engrossed. But every time she lifted her head up to glance at his artwork, her eyes carried hints of bashfulness and tenderness. It seemed as though this girl had turned silly with love and emotions. The door was opened gently and Ling Tian, clad in a white robe, drifted over elegantly. In his hands was a small bowl of porridge and he smiled gently as he spoke, "Lass, put down the brush and come and eat the porridge first." Yu Bingyan uttered a sound of joy, jumping up as she said, "He. Tian''G.T. Is so nice. He. Ouch, it's hot. Eh? Where's Sister Ling Chen? Hot? This bowl is about to freeze, and you still say it's hot? Quickly eat it all, playing these little tricks with me are of no use," Ling Tian reproached laughingly. "Chenner is out running some errands for me and she'll be back soon. Don't change the topic, hurry and eat it all." With a light sound, she began to eat the porridge in small mouthfuls. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something. Raising her head to look at Ling Tian with her sparkling eyes, she asked, "Tian''G.T. Speak the truth. Do you feel uncomfortable looking at this black face of mine all day? You silly lass." Ling Tian guffawed and pinched her smooth face as he replied, "Is that important? In any case, I have long known that this isn't your true appearance. But since my little sister refuses to let me see her face, I can't do anything about it." Yu Bingyan's eyes lit up at that sentence. Is that true? Yanner also would actually like to let Tian''G.T. see my true face, but Yanner is worried. As she spoke, her voice gradually grew softer and softer, and her expression grew dim. She thought to herself, "Silly brother, I'm afraid that you will not be able to let me go of me at that time. In the event that my disease cannot be cured, or I can't survive what comes after, at least your heart will only have my ugly face and you won't feel so sad. Yanner really does not want you to be sad over me. If it really comes to pass, I hope that you can live happily, have a lovable wife, enjoy riches and glory, without thinking of me, ever." However, Ling Tian laughed out loudly, "I know what you're thinking of. Rest assured, Yanner is Ling Tian's little sister and I'll definitely save you. There must be a way to do it. In this world, there's a type of phenomenon, we call it miracle. Yanner, I will make this miracle happen on you." He silently added in his heart, "I won't let you die just like that. Definitely not." 3 days earlier, Ling Tian had already given the order, use all your resources, I do not care what methods, I want everyone to begin collecting spiritual medicines. Ginseng, snow lotus, lingji, vermilion fruits. As long as they contain spiritual energies, I want them all. Ling Tian remembered how he was appointed by his family, in his past life, to steal the recipe for the great cyclic pellet from the Shelline Monastery. This was originally a death sentence, and Ling Tian had to lay in ambush at the roof of the pill refining pavilion for 3 days and nights, without even twitching in the heavy snow, before finally managing to pull it off. As such, because of that mission's difficulty, as well as the fact that he almost froze his butt off, the recipe was firmly engraved in his mind and brought over to this life of his. If not for Yu Bingyan's illness jolting his memory, Ling Tian probably wouldn't have thought about the great cyclic pellet. The moment he had heard of her divine black negative meridians, he suddenly thought of this plan to concoct the great cyclic pellet. While the great cyclic pellet might not be able to open up her divine black negative meridians, the tyrannical medicinal efficacy would be able to alleviate Yu Bingyan's condition temporarily. This would prevent her from passing away at the age of 20. Right now, time was something which Ling Tian needed the most. As long as he had enough time, he had the confidence that he could cultivate his divine shocking dragon formula to an apex in which none had ever seen. At that time, there was hope for Yu Bingyan to be cured completely. In addition, though the great cyclic pellet would only serve as a method to alleviate Yu Bingyan's condition, to Ling Tian, Ling Chen and the rest, it was a treasure in which one could chance upon but not search for. Under Ling Tian's hands, though the pellet produced might not have been as heaven-defying as the original produced by the Shelline Monastery of increasing 10 years' worth of cultivation, it would not be a far shot to increase their cultivation by 3 to 5 years. This increase of 3 to 5 years' worth of cultivation would allow those cold-blooded killers to grow to a terrifying state of power. Never, in Ling Tian's dreams, did he expect that the death sentence handed out by the direct descent of his family in his previous life to be the capital for him to rely on in this world. From this, one could see that life was indeed whimsical at times. Today, Ling Chen had secretly slipped out the moment at dawn, heading to the Ling family courtyard to receive the first batch of medical herbs. Ling Tian cradled Yu Bingyan in his bosom gently, his chin rubbing on her smooth hair as he whispered softly, "Little sister, believe in me. I will treat your illness." Yu Bingyan pulled her face to Ling Tian's chest. She nodded her head hard as her eyes began to fill with tears. In an instant, Ling Tian felt a coolness coming from his chest. Tian''G.T, you must know that even if you treat my illness successfully, I'll still have to attend the 60-year challenge of 3 generations. I am destined to never have the fortune of staying by your side forever. As Ling Tian hugged her supple body, his inner self raged and his eyes hardened. Anyone that I, Ling Tian, acknowledges, nobody can take them from me. Not even the heavens. Because I am Ling Tian and I can definitely rule the heavens. Chapter 105, Marvelous Acting. After Yu Bingyan was tired from crying, she curled up in Ling Tian's embrace, sleeping soundly like an obedient kitten. The sound of light footsteps sounded and Ling Tian placed Yu Bingyan down on the bed gently, covering a blanket over her. He then looked at her closed eyes with tears still present at the tip of her eyelashes. After a while, Ling Tian walked out. Outside the door, a skinny black-dressed man was already standing there quietly. His body was straight, with a pale and chilly face. Ling Tian smiled, "Zhu Ling, why aren't you coming in? Are you not afraid that I will harm your little princess? Are you so confident in me?" The person outside the door was the mysterious man who had always been protecting Yu Bingyan, Zhu Ling, who was an expert in the Yu family. He then replied coldly, "You will not harm the little princess, I know that." "Oh? You're so sure about that?" Ling Tian looked at him teasingly as he thought to himself, "While this fellow seems like a blockhead, he isn't a fool either." Zhu Ling then looked directly into Ling Tian's eyes and said, "While you definitely will not harm the little princess, I know that you will kill me without hesitation the moment you have the chance." Ling Tian burst out into laughter. "Kill you? I can kill you with a brush?" At the same time, he was startled in his heart. This fellow is really so sensitive. Did he realize something? Zhu Ling stared at him unblinkingly, looking at the look of disbelief and innocence plastered over Ling Tian's face. A while later, Zhu Ling averted his gaze from Ling Tian. "Forget it, I only wish that I can send the little princess back to the Yu family safe and sound. Your sky-bearing empire and Ling mansion is too dangerous." Ling Tian nodded his head in agreement. "You are right, I will transfer more guards over. If that isn't enough, I will hire all the armed escort companies in the sky-bearing empire. Those people are all experts in the pugilistic world. They will definitely be able to ensure the safety of the little princess." Zhu Ling was completely speechless. He was just unable to figure anything out about this young man. Whenever Ling Tian lied, he would do so calmly and without a trace, making it seem as though everything was from the bottom of his heart. This made Zhu Ling extremely helpless. Thus, Zhu Ling replied with displeasure, "Do whatever you wish, I will always be by the little prince's side. You'd better take care of your own safety. It is not your turn to bother about the little prince's safety." In the end, he still let go of his doubts. When he first saw Ling Tian, he felt that Ling Tian's body size was a little familiar. However, he would never believe that this #1 silk pants was a martial arts expert. Only until he saw Ling Chen and Ling Tian stand together did he begin to have his suspicions. The past few days, he had tried to silently investigate plenty of times. However, this young man would always be a little evil and frivolous. As for the young lady, she was naive and lively, not bothering about worldly affairs. Slowly, he even began to doubt his own judgment. In the end, he decided not to remain in hiding and step out openly instead. After a few frontal probing, he still had no results at all. He felt that this young man in front of him was just like a slippery loach, making him feel completely helpless. Today, he had finally confirmed that this fellow was only a scholarly aristocratic young noble. Apart from the few words of poetry and strokes of painting, he did not have any other abilities. Zhu Ling began to lament in his heart, "Just how did this weak fellow attract the liking of our little princess? If the family head finds out about this matter, he will definitely skin me alive." He sighed with frustration. After hearing the even breathing of the little princess, his body flashed and he disappeared into the darkness again. Ling Chen's giggles then sounded. "Ever since Zhu Ling followed Yu Bingyan into the Ling mansion, Ling Chen acted like a cheerful lass without any worries in the world, as opposed to her usual cold demeanor, under Ling Tian's command." After following Ling Tian for so many years and acting alongside him, Ling Chen's acting skills was extremely well trained under Ling Tian. If she were to be placed in the modern-day generation, she would definitely be someone like Zhang Ziyi and Liu Yif. Behind Ling Chen, there was a black-dressed young man who seemed a little too stiff. A sharp face with distinct body shape. Every single action he took seemed to be rhythmic. Like a hunter out searching for prey, he was emanating a vicious aura. When the black-dressed young man entered the courtyard, Zhu Ling, who was hiding in the shadows, felt that his heart suddenly sped up. A dangerous feeling overwhelmed him as his hair began to stand. Suddenly, he was reminded of the feeling he felt when he was walking in the cemetery at night. That was a feeling of death. The young man was holding a few boxes in his head. After walking past Zhu Ling's hiding place, his eyes did not turn and pace remained unchanged. Even his breathing was also kept the same, as though he did not know that there was someone like Zhu Ling hiding in the dark. Ling Tian then walked out from the room calmly. After seeing that black-dressed young man, he displayed an exaggerated expression. "Little Jian? Oh? Since when did you return? Did you miss this young noble?" Ling Tian's voice made Zhu Ling's hair stand as he cringed from the gentle tone. At the same time, he thought to himself, don't tell me this darn silk pants is actually a homosexual? After thinking about that, he realized that it was probably a better thing if Ling Tian was a homosexual. After all, the little princess would be in no danger if that was the case. The face of the black-dressed young man, who had his back facing Zhu Ling, contorted oddly and formed an odd expression. The look of zeal which he had in his eyes were already completely gone. Replacing them were eyes wide as saucers, as though his eyes was about to pop out at any time. Only after Ling Chen glared at him did he snap out of that with cold sweat all over his forehead. This black-dressed young man was Ling Tian. Zhu Ling, who was in the shadows, began to ponder, little Tian. While it sounds a little disturbing, this name suggests that he is a servant in the Ling family, right? He is probably the study attendant or bedside companion of this silk pants. But why does he give me such a dangerous feeling? It must definitely be a misperception. How is it possible for a young man like him to emanate such killing intent? With a face full of smile, Ling Tian wrapped his arms over that little Tian's shoulders and brought him into the room. Only then did he ask, how's the harvest? This question was naturally posed to Ling Tian. Ling Tian's face finally turned back to normal as he stood up straight respectfully. He then took out a bundle of paper and handed it over. I did not disappoint you, young noble, I have investigated it all. Ling Tian unfolded the paper and looked through it with a smile. After looking through the contents, he placed it on the table and looked towards Ling Tian with a smile. Ling Tian, I have not seen you for a few days only and you have changed your habits already? This was actually written with ink? You've learned to be gentle? This doesn't seem like you. Ling Tian coughed awkwardly and laughed dryly. Young noble knows me the best. The confession statements which they had written were all in blood. It is still a little bloody after all, and I am afraid that young noble may be uncomfortable with seeing it. So, I made a copy of it. It isn't very troublesome anyway. Hee hee. Ling Tian then tilted his head and said, while your young noble has not seen as much blood as you in my life, I have still seen plenty. Are you afraid that I am disgusted? You are probably afraid that Ling Chen will seek trouble with you after seeing it, right? Afraid that I will be uncomfortable? What a lousy excuse. Ling Tian nodded his head sorrowfully and said, the last Chener, I am indeed afraid. Ling Chen began to glare at him. Little Tian, what do you mean? This young lady haven't seen blood before? I've seen it 3 times already. Ling Tian retorted, you did see it before 3 times. First time, you fainted. Second time, you fainted again. Third time, you did not faint. Last Chen, I remember that I chopped off a person's arm that time and was stained with flesh and blood. Who was it who puked after witnessing that and even took a metal rod to beat me up? You still didn't allow me to dodge the rod. After seeing a ghost, of course I would be afraid of the dark. Chener's face turned red as she said, what are you talking about? Who is the ghost? Are you seeking to be beaten up? At the same time, she shot a glance at Ling Tian and immediately reminded about how she puked all over Ling Tian the other time. At that moment, she felt a wave of shame and sweetness in her heart. Ling Tian burst out into laughter as he looked at the piece of paper. It is indeed as I have expected. Ling Kong is indeed an orphan which my grandfather picked up and does not have any background. Even if we were to give him the Ling family, can he handle it? Indeed so. Yang family, Nangong family. Ha 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 ha. I have always found it strange that our Ling family was able to contend for the #1 family in the sky-bearing empire with our strength. So, it was Yang Kong, that old bastard, who was treating us as his own puppet. That old bastard really planned so far ahead, planting a secret pawn in our family so far ahead. But for the Nangong family to participate in this matter, it is a little strange. As he said that, he looked towards Ling Tian with a questioning look. Ling Tian then replied, according to what I know, The person who contacted the Nangong family is different from the one contacting the Yang family. Furthermore, they both do not know about the existence of the other party. This subordinate think that the Nangong and Yang family are both trying to stick their leg into this matter but are not colluding with each other. Ling Tian responded with a before asking, "That's right. If that's the case, how will you deal with this matter?" Ling Jian thought for a moment before replying. This subordinate humbly thinks that Ling Kong is nothing but a clown. Now that he is already in our grasp, he will never be able to escape. While the Yang family is always at odds with us, without them, our Ling family will become the target for the imperial family to exterminate. Thus, we can just warn the Yang family a little. As for the Nangong family, since they have such an ambition, they should receive our vengeance. This subordinate think that we should wipe out their whole family. As Ling Jian said to wipe out their whole family, his face was still calm as though it was nothing at all. Chapter 106, 3 Questions. Ling Chen's face turned chilly as she rolled her eyes. Why do you only know how to wipe out their families? Apart from killing, can you think of something else? Ling Jian gave a cold HMPH and scolded, the Nangong family is audacious, daring to actually take the initiative to deal with us. That means that they must be tired of living. Killing one is also enmity, killing 100 is still life and death enmity. Then why should we pity them? Kill them all without leaving any troubles behind is the best way. Ling Jian had personally experienced what he just said. Back then, the Blood Rose Hall killed his family because of greed, but he managed to escape from them. But because of him alone, he managed to wash the Blood Rose Hall in blood single-handedly 3 years later. That night, Ling Jian slaughtered hundreds alone with a single sword. That feeling of thrill was something which he still reminisces about up until now. It was also that night which determined that he will be a bloodthirsty killer in this life. Now, the first pavilion was renowned around the world because of the foundation built from that night. Killing one is a crime, but killing 10,000 makes one a hero. If one killed 9 million, he would be the hero of heroes. Ling Jian never liked songs in his life, but after hearing Ling Tian sing that song, Ling Jian's blood began to boil from the lyrics. As long as it is beneficial to his young noble's ambitions, so what if he had to kill 9 million people? Up until now, he still remembered the first thing Ling Tian asked him when he came back soaked in the blood of revenge. Do you know what the Blood Rose Hall was destroyed? At that time, Ling Jian shook his head. He only knew that he killed to the point he was overjoyed, but he never thought about any form of reasoning. At that time, Ling Tian said, as a gang, the Blood Rose Hall did not do anything wrong. It was only right for a gang to commit murder and arson. If they do not kill and commit crimes, how can they be called a gang? The only mistake the Blood Rose Hall made was their moment of carelessness. They did not remove the roots of the problem and allowed you to escape. Then you met someone like me who was able to groom you. So, the gigantic Blood Rose Hall was destroyed by that single mistake. Their gang destroyed and people massacred. Ling Jian, you have to remember, you have to be cruel to your enemies, removing all routes in the process. Be it men, women, old or young, you have to view them all equally and must not let anyone off. You have to know, a single spark can start a fire. Since you have already decided to go against them, they are your enemies. What are enemies? Enemies are the people who will kill us if we are not careful. Facing your enemies, there is no such thing as mercy. The rules of the pugilistic world and so-called morals are worthless in front of hatred. You must never leave behind the chance of a future problem. You would rather be a heartless individual than allow your enemies to grow before you. Do you wish for the Blood Rose Hall to have someone like you come take revenge years later? While 7 years had already passed, the words which were spoken by Ling Tian back then still resounded in Ling Jian's ears. Ling Jian would never allow anyone to sow such a seed of revenge. If he was able to meet the young noble, why can't others have similar encounters? The world is such a huge place, Who knows how many people like the young noble there are in the world? Only by killing everyone cleanly and ensuring no loose ends can one protect the things dear to him. Get it done, once and for all. All this while, Ling Jian's actions had been influenced by this statement said by Ling Tian, and it was already deeply rooted in him. Vicious and merciless had already become the standards in Ling Jian's heart. Ling Tian laughed and said, "This Nangong family, since they have already thought about touching us, they must definitely suffer from our retaliation. But, with the way the world is today, we definitely cannot make any large actions. Now, the undercurrents in the continent is already surging violently, ready to burst out into war at any time. The Nangong family is one of the larger aristocratic families in the continent. If we hastily exterminate the Nangong family, we will be the spark for the war. At that time, war would sweep through the continent, and this is not something we want." Ling Jian's face changed as he said, "Young noble, with our strength now, do we still have to continue enduring silently? If the continent falls into chaos, that would be the best time for us to rise to prominence. The chaotic world will be the foundation for young noble's ambitions." "Nonsense!" Ling Tian scolded. "Even if the continent were to fall into chaos, we should not be the one to trigger it. If we were to take action now, it is akin to alerting our enemies and exposing our strength. Do you not understand what it means to conceal ourselves? In such times, it is best to use the chaos to our advantage. Our policy should be to watch the tigers battle while we benefit from all directions. When the tigers fight, us, as the hunters, would be the final victor. That should be the direction to head towards." "Stupid." Ling Jian's and Ling Chen's faces were ashen. Ling Tian gave a sigh as he looked towards Ling Jian. "Jian, I have 3 questions for you, answer me." "Please speak, young noble." Ling Jian bowed respectfully. After being reprimanded, the nose of this top-notch killer was already filled with sweat. "First, with our current strength, is it enough to destroy the Nangong family?" Ling Tian asked. "Our forces are resolute and strong. Each soldier of our 20,000 large army is able to fight 10 people single-handedly. Furthermore, the martial arts of the 36 Blood Iron warriors are also exceptional, with each of them in possession of a special skill. Besides that, there is also Ling Chen, Ling Qi and the others from the first pavilion. Young noble's martial arts is also at an extremely profound level, almost achieving perfection. If we want to destroy the Nangong family, there is an 80% chance that we will succeed. Furthermore, we have the Ling family as our backing." As Ling Jian said until there, he looked towards Ling Tian and realized that something was wrong with Ling Tian's face. Thus, he stopped talking. "You're wrong, extremely wrong. First, you are blindly confident in our own strength. You only know your own strength, but you do not know the enemy's strength. While you can treat your enemy with contempt, you must not underestimate them. While the few of you are strong, the Nangong family isn't weak either. As for me, I do not dare to say that I am the #1 expert in the world. The world is a vast place with many talents and experts around. It far exceeds your expectations for sure. That Nangong family is one of the 8 great aristocratic family which has been present for hundreds of years already. You can imagine just how powerful they must be. With our strength, while we may win, it would be a bitter victory for sure, harming ourselves greatly in the process. The final result may even be for both parties to suffer heavy losses. It doesn't really matter to me if the Nangong family is eliminated or not. At least, I am not too worried about the Nangong family. But if more than half of our strength is diminished because of the Nangong family, we would lose the ability to protect ourselves. This is something which we can never accept and a price we can't afford to pay. Second, there is no one who knows about the full strength of our army. This is also the reason for our survival. If everyone were to know about our army, our extermination would also be near. Third, if we really combine our strength with the Ling family, The combined force would end up becoming a large variable in the world and the target of everyone. Our Ling family would never become the subordinate of another family. As such, not only will we attract enmity from all the powers in our country, the whole continent would also treat us as a thorn in their flesh and would eliminate us for sure. Then, while the Ling family would become powerful, it would receive attacks from all sides. At that time, the day of our destruction would be near. Do you agree? Ling Tian was a smart person as well. After hearing what Ling Tian said, he broke out in cold sweat as he bowed in agreement. Next, what do you think about Yang Kongkun from the Yang family? Ling Tian asked again. While that Yang family is big, it is large but impractical and nothing to be afraid of. That old man Yang Kongkun is a worthless idiot as well. After being controlled within young noble's palms for so many years, he did not realize it at all. He is just an old fogey. If young noble wishes to, I can present young noble with his head tonight. Ling Tian said proudly, without a single regard for Yang Kongkun. Wrong again. Yang Kongkun is an old fogey? I think you are the little fogey. Ling Tian smiled from anger. That old man Yang has great foresight and planning. He can definitely be considered a powerful opponent. Ever since the ancient times, the emperor would be at odds with the ministers in power. If the imperial family is powerful, the ministers would be weak and vice versa. However, the imperial family is still the legitimate ruler after all, and the ministers had always lost in history. Even if the courts are corrupt and chaotic, justice is still in the hearts of the people. If a single mistake is made, everything can be gone in just a single night. While the present emperor cannot be considered to be an excellent one, he is still clear about the situation and knows when to advance or retreat. At the same time, he is also enduring silently. Before his strength develops to a point where he can crush both families, he will not make any rash moves and would only sow discord between both families. He would not let the families grow too quickly and would definitely not allow both families to fight each other, lest the foundations of the sky-bearing empire is affected. He only hopes for both the families to slowly wear each other down. When the time is right, he will then grasp both the Ling and Yang family in his hands. If Yang Kongkun has the same temper as grandfather, he would have probably fell into the trap of the emperor already. If that was the case, both the Yang and Ling family would have long been in the emperor's hands. The only reason why we are able to maintain such a balance is largely due to Yang Kongkun. This old fogey is extremely wise and reads the situation well. Towards the emperor, he would never use his strength to humiliate the imperial family, playing his own role dutifully. Towards our Ling family, no matter how we provoke them, he would always choose to take a few steps back, as long as it doesn't affect the roots of his Yang family. This amount of patience and endurance is not something which I possess. While people on the outside think that he is an old and weak man, he actually has his own wisdom. Facing the emperor who tries to sow discord and pressure from the Ling family, he has never panicked. He single-handedly managed to balance the imperial, Ling and Yang family. The amount of wisdom he has is definitely to be praised. Yang Kongkun is a crafty hero. As such, among the three powers in the sky-bearing empire, the Yang family is actually the strongest. It is just that the world does this not know about it only. He actually managed to gain an upper hand in such a precarious situation. This person definitely cannot be underestimated. If not, we will definitely suffer a great loss in his hands. Chapter 107, Driving a Wedge. After Ling Tian heard Ling Tian's analysis, his face changed and he broke out in perspiration. I have a third question to ask you. Ling Tian asked for the third time. Ling Tian was first stunned before replying, Young noble, please ask. What do you think about Ling Kong and his son? Ling Tian said. Ling Tian was first stunned before answering, Ling Kong and Ling Zhen are both despicable and malicious. But, they are also extremely scheming. Especially that Ling Kong, giving it his all in the affairs of the Ling family, winning the approval of everyone in the Ling family. That Ling Zhen is even more amazing. actually hiding from the sharp eyes of old Madame Ling and acquiring her liking. Old Madame Ling even kept him by her side to groom him personally. In the Ling family presently, everyone believes that this child has a bright future, with many people cozying up to him. That Ling Zhen is also extremely tactful, expressing his intentions to aid young noble in front of others. This is already a story which has spread across the Ling family, earning him the praise of everyone in the family. He also gained the favor of grandsire and sir. Thus, Ling Tian thinks that this father and son pair are hypocritical, malicious and scheming. If they are not gotten rid of quickly, they will become a big problem for young noble eventually. "You are wrong again," Ling Tian said with disappointment. "I'm wrong again? Don't tell me Ling Kong and his son don't stand out at all?" Ling Tian asked with astonishment. "That's not the case. This father and son pair hides a knife under their smile and are extremely scheming. Being able to hide everything perfectly from the world shows that they are indeed talents with their own merit. You are not wrong about this." Ling Tian smiled. In Ling Tian's and Ling Chen's eyes, they felt that the young noble's smile was filled with ridicule at this moment. They could not help but look at each other, puzzled about the young noble's expression. "Then, why does young noble say that I'm wrong?" Ling Tian asked with doubt. "You are wrong about another person," Ling Tian said solemnly. "Someone else?" "Ling Tian is ignorant and hopes the young noble will educate me." Ling Tian bowed in doubt. "Is there another extraordinary character in the Ling family apart from the young noble?" "You are wrong about two people. First, the head of the Yang family, Yang Kong. From our previous conversation, you should already know that Ling Kong is a chess piece which the Yang family planted in the Ling family. Yang Kong had already been planning this for over 20 years. At that time, Yang Kong was already aware that his own influence was too huge but yet did not have the strength to usurp the throne. Afraid that the emperor will deal with him, he sent his daughter into the palace as a mean of seeking peace and displaying that he did not have malicious intents, winning him a few years of breathing space. Then, he purposefully allowed our Ling family to grow and aid us in becoming a powerhouse comparable to the Yang family, allowing balance for his self-protection. However, our Ling family had always been the #1 opponent of the Yang family. While he wasn't afraid of us, he would definitely guard against us, afraid that we will grow to a point he cannot control. Thus, he made a secret Ling Kong plan. He turned Ling Kong into an orphan to obtain the pity of my grandfather, becoming a godson. Yang Kong's plan was to make Ling Kong the new family head of the Ling family. Since he would be able to control this puppet family head, the Ling family will be in his complete control to maintain the balance of the three powers. If this old fellow is really successful, he will be able to retreat and advance. Once the time is ripe, he can usurp the throne. This would ensure that his Yang family wouldn't be taken over by the imperial family and he would always have an avenue of retreat. This old thing really has great foresight and laid down a frightening plan. This wit is really to be praised. After hearing Ling Tian expose the many plans of Yang Kong, Ling Tian and Ling Chen were startled. After thinking carefully about the many things which happened in the past few years, they felt that what Ling Tian said had really made sense. Young noble is right, Ling Tian is convinced. Can I ask who the other person is? Ling Tian asked with sincerity. The other person is my grandmother. Grandmother is old and sharp, running the huge operations of our Ling family for decades. Her wisdom and shrewdness is exceptional. She had already seen the Ling Kong's plan a long time ago. Thus, she took the initiative to keep Ling Zhen by her side. While she says that she is nurturing him, she is actually keeping an eye on him. It was also akin to having a hostage. The more amazing thing is that grandmother would intentionally reveal some fake news to that little thief, thus misleading all of Ling Kong's plan. She had played a fool of the old fox Ling Kong. The way she was so precise with her actions makes one astounded. The shrewdness of grandmother does not lose out to that old man Yang at all. These two fellows are really old people without Knowing that he said something he should not have, he quickly stopped there. Ling Tian and Ling Tian were both in consideration, mumbling to themselves for a moment. Shortly after, Ling Tian raised his head with viciousness in his eyes. "Young noble, since we cannot touch the Nangong family and Yang family, why not we just get rid of Ling Kong and his son?" "Definitely not." Ling Tian rejected without hesitation. "We had already allowed Ling Kong to do what he wants for so many years just for a good opportunity. The opportunity is going to be ripe soon and we must definitely not alert him. The moment we take action, we must do it lightning fast, cleaning up all of his accomplices. Especially all of the spies which the Yang and Nangong family planted into our family, they must all be cleaned up. After this incident, we must make sure that the Ling family is completely clean. There must be no one in the Ling family with any malicious intents. We cannot allow anyone with malicious intents into our very bedside." Ling Tian then pouted unhappily. "We can't touch the Yang family, can't touch the Nangong family. We still can't touch Ling Kong now. Young noble, isn't this too frustrating?" "Ha ha ha, since when did I say that we cannot touch the Yang and Nangong family? These two families must be touched, and they must be greatly touched." Ling Tian smiled. Ling Tian and Ling Tian were both puzzled as though they didn't know what was going on anymore. "Didn't young noble say?" Ling Tian sighed. "Two pig heads. I meant that we cannot touch them openly, I did not say that we cannot do so in secret. How can we let them off so easily? HMPH, do they really think it is so easy to take advantage of me? If they want to take advantage of me and retreat fully, it isn't so easy." Ling Tian and Ling Tian lit up. "Please enlighten us." Ling Tian narrowed his eyes with a sinister grin. "While we cannot move against them on the surface, we must collect some interest. Coincidentally, the young noble and miss of the Nangong family are here in the Sky-bearing Empire." Ling Tian thought for a moment before adding on with a cunning smile. "Ling Tian, if Nangongla were to suddenly die in the Yang family and the Nangong family receives news that the Yang family was aware of their other plans, what do you think will happen?" Ling Tian's eyes lit up as he said, "The Nangong family will think that their own plots caused the death of their son. Both the families would definitely break out in dispute and may even fight each other. At that time, we can receive the benefits from that." Ling Tian replied, That's right. While the Nangong and Yang family will not turn against each other and fight immediately, the Yang family will still be responsible for not protecting Nangongla properly. The dots between both families would definitely grow. Even if it grows at the slowest rate, it will still delay their alliance. Investigate where Nangongla and Yangwei have been hanging around lately. Then, this matter will be handed over to you completely. Remember to do it cleanly and lay the trap nicely. Go and think about it yourself." Ling Tian laughed. "Young noble's plan is really flawless and ingenious." Ling Tian, "Send the medicine to my secret chamber." After investigating the medicine, Ling Tian nodded his head in satisfaction. Only a few more materials are required. Chapter 108, Actually Injured. Ling Tian, "Send the medicine to my secret chamber." After investigating the medicine, Ling Tian nodded his head in satisfaction. Only a few more materials were required. "Young noble, the information has arrived. The three brothers of the Yang family had booked the third level of the Smoky Thea Tower for 10 consecutive days. They are really despicable." Ling Tian stroked an obedient hawk as she said. Okay. Under the rack of grapes in the courtyard, Ling Tian lay down on a bamboo chair and said with his eyes closed, "Come, help me rub my shoulders. I was angered by that pighead Ling Tian to the point my shoulders is aching." Ling Tian giggled in response, "Young noble, this is the first time I heard someone's shoulders ache from anger." "Whose shoulders are aching?" A bright voice sounded and Yu Bingyan walked out from the room. After a good rest, her mood was obviously much better. "Oh. I was saying that there is a little pig sleeping in my room. She is snoring to the point my shoulders are aching." Ling Tian looked towards Yu Bingyan, who had just woken up. He purposefully acted like a lecher and wolf whistled, "You have a good figure, lass. Come, let this young noble hug you." Ha ha ha. Annoying. Yu Bingyan stomped her feet bitterly. While her face wasn't red due to her disguise, her neck and ears were bright red, looking like a carnelian gem under the sun. "Since when did I snore? I wouldn't snore." "Ah. You can ask Ling Chen if you don't believe me. You were snoring to the point the rack of grapes almost fell down. In fact, it was Ling Chen who went to support it. Am I right, Ling Chen?" Ling Tian winked at Ling Chen. Ling Chen was already bursting out into laughter while holding on to her belly as she leaned onto the bamboo chair. With her sides aching from laughter, how was it possible for her to find the strength to answer Ling Tian? You! I'm going to bite you to death." Yu Bingyan brandished her nails and plunged towards Ling Tian. Before she even had the chance to bite him, that bamboo chair could no longer take the three of their weights. With a crumbling sound, it died of old age and the three of them hit the floor. While Ling Tian was able to avoid Yu Bingyan, he was afraid that she would injure herself. However, he never imagined the bamboo chair to be so weak, crumbling into pieces in such a crucial time. With a sigh, Ling Tian used each of his arms to grab both the ladies in front of him as he became the meat cushion. After all, a man has got to take some responsibility. But this responsibility will require him to pay a price at times. Bang! Ah! Ling Chen's and Yu Bingyan's forehead bumped into each other and they let out a shriek. Yu Bingyan rubbed her forehead and complained, "Sister Ling Chen, your head is so hard." She then turned and looked at Ling Tian, "Your bones are injuring me. Why didn't you eat some more to grow more meat?" Ling Tian grimaced in pain as he said weakly, "Both of you ladies are going to squash me to death with your weight. My poor bum still has bamboo pieces underneath it." Ling Chen and Yu Bingyan exclaimed together, getting up from Ling Tian's body as quickly as they could. Ling Chen was extremely agile and got up in any instant. As for Yu Bingyan, she was a little weaker and could only sit up with difficulty after using Ling Tian's body as support. Following which, Yu Bingyan could hear sounds of hissing. As she turned to look, she saw Ling Tian's face grimacing in pain with his face full of perspiration. She could not help but ask with shock, "Tian''G.T, are you alright? Is it painful?" Ling Tian grit his teeth and continued to say, "Please stand up quickly. I am going to die already. Mother." Yu Bingyan responded with a "oh" anxiously as she exerted strength with both her strengths to push herself up. However, she heard Ling Tian give a grunt as both his eyes looked as though they were about to pop out. Only at this moment did Yu Bingyan feel that there is something wrong with the feeling in her hands. Looking down, one of her hand was on Ling Tian's ribs and the other in the middle of his legs. Furthermore, there seems to be something strange. Ah! Yu Bingyan sat there in a daze for a moment before realizing what she had grabbed. She let out a high-pitched shriek as she quickly pushed herself up again. Following a cry of agony from Ling Tian, Yu Bingyan covered her face, which was burning red, as she darted into a room like a rabbit chased by a wolf. Her neck, which was exposed out of her collars, was completely bright red. Ling Tian was no longer acting anymore. Even if he had Xiantian inner chi, his most sensitive part as a man was just as weak as every other man. This is without exception. Furthermore, Ling Tian is still an extremely normal man. When both the ladies had squashed him, Ling Tian had already felt uncomfortable and could not control his reaction. It was a normal reaction, and also a large reaction. When this reaction was large to a certain point, Yu Bingyan had used that reaction as her support, pressing down hard on it. It was just like a firm metal pole receiving a powerful impact. Ling Tian felt his body tremble as he almost fainted on the spot. His whole body began to tremble as cold sweat filled his face. For the first time, Ling Tian slouched in weakness as he stood up like a curled-up prawn with his face trembling. Ever since he came to this world, this was the first time he experienced a serious injury. Furthermore, it was right before he was going to. Ling Tian let out a long sigh and wanted to cry. It seems that he would take at least 3 days to have a full recovery. There is a large price to pay for responsibility. Ling Tian's face was also bright red and her eyes were darting around, not daring to stare at Ling Tian's eyes. She did not know where to place her hands as she fiddled her fingers anxiously. While she really wanted to take care of Ling Tian, Ling Tian just did not have that. Without experience, she could only watch by the side anxiously. With a flash, Zhu Ling, who was in the shadows, appeared in front of Ling Tian, shying. A long sword was pulled out of its sheath and pointed at Ling Tian's neck, making him feel goosebumps from the energy emanating from the sword. With a cold and enraged expression, Zhu Ling scolded, "Speak. What did you do to the little princess?" Afraid that the little princess would blame him for being too near and affecting her mood, together with the fact that the little princess was sleeping, Zhu Ling had hid himself in a place slightly further away. But as Zhu Ling heard that high-pitched shriek from her, he was frightened to the point his heart stopped beating for a moment. He could not be bothered to conceal himself and sprinted over. Ling Tian frowned with a slouched back, with one of his hands rubbing his crotch gently with a pathetic face. After hearing Zhu Ling's rude words, he could not help but feel angered. If not for the fact that he was immobile presently, he would have definitely flew into a rage. "FK. What can I do to your little princess? Go and ask what your little princess did to me. I also won't be able to do anything for some time already." As Zhu Ling saw Ling Tian rubbing his crotch with a depressed face, he immediately knew that Ling Tian was injured in that sensitive spot. In that moment, he was filled with an urge to laugh and fly into a rage at the same time. If you didn't attempt to do something to the little princess, how would you be injured there? As he said that, he regretted immediately. No matter the truth of that statement, the little princess's reputation would be greatly affected if this were to be spread out. These words of his should not have been said. Ling Tian slowly straightened his back as he limped slowly in front of Zhu Ling and whispered into his ears, "Not to mention the fact that I didn't do anything. Even if I wanted to do anything, I had plenty of opportunities to do it and not let you guys hear a thing in the past few days. Dumb donkey." Scram. He pushed Zhu Ling's sword away and shoved Zhu Ling to the side. Zhu Ling was dumbfounded on the spot as he thought, "He scolded me. He actually scolded me. How bold of him." Ever since Zhu Ling started practicing martial arts, even Yu Man Lu had not scolded him before. Now, a little brat actually scolded him so arrogantly. In that moment, he was angered silly and did not have a chance to react. He did not notice that Ling Tian had already shoved him to the side, as anger brewed in his heart. A long while later, Zhu Ling roared, "Ling Tian! You and @ dare to scold me? This daddy here will definitely teach you a lesson." As he looked around, he realized that apart from the broken bamboo chair, the whole yard was empty. Even Ling Tian, who was standing there previously, had already disappeared. Zhu Ling then thought again, "It seems that this fellow is really seriously injured. At least, the little princess will be safe in the short run." He could not help but be determined to send the little princess back to the Yu family. This silk pants Ling Tian just posed far too huge a threat for the little princess. What kind of a person is he? Having such contact with the little princess in just a mere few days. In the room, Ling Tian was lying in bed with a bitter expression. It seems like he had really received a serious injury. Even if he was an unparalleled expert, his inner chi just wasn't useful now. Yu Bingyan and Ling Chen looked towards him as their shoulders trembled slightly every now and then, as though they were having great trouble holding in their laughter. The sound of Zhu Ling's roar sounded and Ling Tian gave a long sigh. "Poor fellow, I scolded him an hour ago and he only reacted now. He is just too sensitive." Ha ha ha. The both of them could no longer hold back their laughter as they heard what Ling Tian said. The next moment, They laughed to the point tears began to roll out as they held onto the sides of their stomachs. Ling Tian then whined, "Little sister, if this brother is going to be, you will have to take responsibility. This brother is counting on you." After stopping her laughter with great effort, she replied him with a tsk. However, her heart was filled with a sense of long,